con.
Defendant Aaron Hernandez is guilty of murder in the first degree.
One-time football great Aaron Hernandez found guilty of first-degree murder, sentenced to life without parole.
The fact that he was a professional athlete meant nothing in the end.
Hernandez hauled away in handcuffs, a bombshell ending to a 10-week trial that captivated the nation. Good evening. Those 12 jurors say they are confident they did the right thing.
Today's verdict, a big win for the prosecution. There was no murder weapon, no solid motive, and no eyewitness to testify to Odin Lloyd's murder.
The trial also pitting two sisters from Bristol, Connecticut against each other. Fox Connecticut has been following the case from day one, and tonight we have live team coverage. How his hometown of Bristol is reacting and what's next for number 81. We begin with Fox Connecticut's John Charlton with a closer look at today's verdict.
Brent and Audrey, after almost 40 days of testimony and 35 hours of deliberations, the verdict seemed to happen so quickly. We thought a verdict was near because Aaron Hernandez's mother and his fiancée, Cheyenne Jenkins, showed up at the courthouse in Fall River this morning. As it turns out, there wasn't only a decision, we also learned Hernandez's punishment.
What say you, Madam Foreperson? Is the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Aaron Hernandez barely even blinked when the jury labeled him a killer. His fiancée and mother, however, were devastated.
Deliberate premeditation and/or extreme atrocity or cruelty.
Extreme atrocity or cruelty.
The jury determined the 6 .45 caliber gunshots which killed Odin Lloyd were excessively malicious, and that Hernandez orchestrated the whole thing in the North Attleboro Industrial Park in the early morning hours of June 17, 2013. Lloyd's mother, Ursula Ward, also broke down with bittersweet tears as the jury found the former New England Patriots star guilty as well on the other crimes of illegal gun and ammunition possession.
Juror in seat number 7, is the verdict as announced by the foreperson your verdict?
Yes. A seated Hernandez mouthed his disapproval towards the jury. He didn't have much time to digest his fate. The sentencing phase quickly came next, starting with a heartbroken statement from Lloyd's mother. And even though she lost her firstborn, her only son, Ursula Ward was not revengeful.
I forgive the hands of the people that had a hand in my son's murder, either before or after. And I pray and hope that someday everyone out there will forgive them also.
After Lloyd's mother, his sister told Judge Susan Garsh that her brother avoided trouble.
He was never in a gang. He never picked up guns. And this is how he died.
The impact statements finished. The judge's sentence was swift, having the court clerk announce it.
You're committed to the MCI Cedar Junction for the term of your natural life without the possibility of parole.
A maximum sentence without hope of ever being a free man again, at least for now. Appeals are coming, but on this day, a lot of appreciation for justice.
I would like to thank the prosecutors and everyone that had a hand in helping the prosecutors to come this far.
That includes all the help from police here in Connecticut, DA Thomas Quinn said, the state police divers who searched Pine Lake for the murder weapon, and Bristol PD, who assisted in the search of 114 Lake Avenue.
The fact that he was a professional athlete meant nothing in the end. He is a citizen who was held accountable by the jury for his depraved conduct.
And sentences on the 2 other charges of illegal firearms and ammunition possession are basically moot unless Hernandez's attorneys can win an appeal and have the murder conviction overturned. Meanwhile, Hernandez's buddies and alleged accomplices, Ernest Wallace and Carlos Ortiz, are standing by for their separate trials. As you may recall, Hernandez's attorneys tried to put blame on Wallace and Ortiz for the murder, arguing that they were high on PCP, and to Hernandez's surprise, one of them shot Odin Lloyd. John Charlton, Fox, Connecticut.
All Right, John, thank you. It's ironic that Hernandez could likely spend the rest of his life just a few miles from where he used to play football. Today, he was hauled off to begin serving his sentence at Cedar Junction, a maximum security prison in Walpole, Massachusetts. It's a mere 3.4 miles from Gillette Stadium, and some say he might even be able to hear the crowd on game days. There's also the possibility he could be transferred to a nearby prison in Norfolk, which is still less than 5 miles from the Patriot Stadium. Well, despite Hernandez's elite NFL status, the jury says they are certain they made the right decision.
Hours after the guilty verdict was handed down, all 12 jurors defended their reasons in a rare post-verdict news conference, saying there were a few key pieces of the story that were missing or just didn't add up.
Fox Connecticut's Bo Berman continues our coverage with that part of the story. Bo.
Brent, Audrey, the jury was surprisingly candid in saying they were very surprised by some of the strategies used by the former NFL star's legal team. In closing arguments, Aaron Hernandez's defense team acknowledged that he was at the crime scene and witnessed the killing of Odin Lloyd, possibly a fatal flaw in their defense strategy.
Oh, we were all shocked by that.
Surprising.
Very surprising.
When asked about the defense's case, jurors smirked and even laughed.
I think the evidence was compelling.
Yes.
Jurors admitted the evidence was quite circumstantial, but the defense appeared to fumble in two ways. One, jurors questioned how Hernandez could have told Robert Kraft he was at the club during Lloyd's death.
He hoped that the time of the murder incident came out because I believe he said he was in a club.
To this day, we just went through a 3-month trial. This is now a year and a half or 2 years later. We still don't know the exact time of Odin's murder.
Secondly, the defense offered an alternate explanation that Hernandez's co-defendant shot Lloyd to death in a PCP-fueled rage.
You didn't buy the PCP? No.
They didn't buy it. Now, some jurors went on to say that at one point in the surveillance video, it did appear as though Aaron Hernandez was holding a gun. They all agreed they made the, quote, right decision and did the right thing. But overall, the jury was very relaxed, laughed a lot, and seemed pleased to be finished with their civic duty. Bo Berman, Fox, Connecticut.
Thank you, Bo. The rise and ultimate fall of Aaron Hernandez centers around the small town of Bristol, Connecticut.
It's where he was born and raised, growing up at a home on Greystone Avenue. At age 16, Hernandez's father passed away, which greatly affected him and many say led to rebellion against authority figures.
Still, on the football field, he was a standout, breaking all kinds of state records and, in fact, making the honor roll at Bristol Central High School. Upon graduation, Hernandez committed initially to play for the Yukon Huskies, but then ultimately enrolled at the University of Florida, where he played for the Gators from 2007 to 2009.
But he found trouble off the field in Gainesville, too. As a freshman, he was allegedly involved in a fistfight with a bouncer over a bar tab. Then Florida quarterback Tim Tebow reportedly tried to break up that fight. Despite recommendations from police, felony battery charges were never filed. After junior year, number 81 decided to forego his senior season and enter the 2010 NFL Draft, inking a 4-year deal with the New England Patriots.
And in just 1 year, he was considered a standout on the field. He was named a Pro Bowl alternate during the 2011 season and is credited with helping lead the Patriots to the Super Bowl, which they ultimately lost to the Giants. By the end of his second season, he was a bona fide star, landing a $40 million contract extension and a $12.5 million signing bonus, which was the largest ever given to an NFL tight end. His last appearance on the field was the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens in 2013. Just 4 months later, he was indicted for Lloyd's murder and ordered to jail, where he's been held ever since. Man residents in Bristol say they are not surprised but saddened by today's guilty verdict.
Fox Connecticut's Louisa Mueller continues our live team coverage from Hernandez's alma mater, Bristol Central High School. Louisa, what is the mood in town there?
Well, Audrey, Brent, to understand how people feel, it's really linked to that meteoric rise. I mean, when he played here at Bristol Central, he was a local star. He was considered one of the best high school tight ends in the country. So a dramatic rise, tons of success, then plummeting to the bottom. And frankly, people around here are dazed and heartbroken.
I am actually shocked.
For Bob Montgomery, Aaron Hernandez was Bristol's golden boy.
Do a good job for your dad. Make him proud. I pointed up like that, and that's the last thing I said to him.
A natural-born athlete, a community pride, the one, the only.
21 years old. He was the youngest kid in the NFL. I think age 22. He's got a $40 million contract. We've never had anybody in the NFL.
And the sports and news correspondent for the Bristol Press says the ex-NFLer's murder trial may have numbed him to the situation, but not for the outcome.
To see it live and to see that he was found guilty is kind of unsurreal.
Montgomery is just one Bristol resident who has grown weary from Hernandez's heartache. Patrons and staff at Riverside Restaurant said they saw the former tight end often and grew fond of him.
They used to come here when he was a little boy with his dad.
Folks like Jessie Martin, a server at Riverside, who said she nearly came to tears when she heard of Hernandez's fate, guilty of murder, life without parole.
It really hurts inside because I know the whole family, and he used to come here all the time.
And then there are residents who watched Hernandez come up as a star. Ron Paulette used to attend his high school games.
He had so much of a bright future ahead of him, and to throw it all away, it's sad.
With the words of a jury, a legend in this town was lost. Justice served, but with a blow to a tight-knit community.
I know he was a high-strung guy and he did a lot of little things that were against the grain, but I never thought that it would come to that.
And Montgomery told us that he believed that ever since Hernandez lost his father at age 16, that he was really a changed man. His dad died after a hernia surgery. And just to give you an idea of how close-knit this community is, his uncle still works here at the high school. We're live here in Bristol. Louisa Moeller, Fox, Connecticut.
All right, Louisa Moeller in Bristol. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. There is still a long legal road ahead for Hernandez. His defense lawyers could still appeal today's verdict. And then there's the other murder trial that jurors didn't get to hear about. Hernandez faces 2 additional murder charges for a drive-by 2012 shooting in Boston. Prosecutors say he stalked and ambushed Daniel Abreu and Safiro Furtado after one of them bumped into him at a nightclub, spilling his drink. The silver SUV allegedly involved in that drive-by was hauled away from a relative's home in Bristol back in 2013. Hernandez has pleaded not guilty to those murders. The trial was scheduled to begin in May, but postponed because of the Lloyd trial. A new date has not yet been set. And coming up ahead at 5, we continue our coverage and sit down with criminal defense attorney Norm Pattis for his take on today's verdict.
All right, time to take a first look at the weather now, and I could look at this weather like all day.
Oh,
right?
my goodness,
wow.
It is the best. It's gorgeous out there, Rach. Loving it. How's the weather watch looking?
I mean, seriously, on a scale of 1 to 10, who would not give today a 10? This is the kind of weather that we look forward to all year round, and it looks like we're going to hang on to the sunshine tomorrow, but a switch in the wind direction is going to make a big difference in terms of the temperature. So if you live along the shore, soak it up while you can. Temperatures between 65 to right around 70 degrees. Right down to the coast, 70 in Stonington and Woodstock, 64 in Derby, 63 degrees in Salisbury. Not bad. Flood warning posted now for the Connecticut River. This should not alarm you at all. This is the typical flooding that we see every spring. Minor flooding along the Connecticut River from Hartford all the way down through Middlesex County. Heading through the overnight hours, clear skies, smooth sailing, 35 to around 40 degrees, and blue skies ahead for the day tomorrow as well. But again, temperatures will be quite different, even though it will look the same when you step outside the door. I'll explain full forecast, including that 7-day, in just a bit.
And ahead, 1 down, 1 to go. A break in the cold-blooded murder of a store clerk from Bridgeport, but police say their detective work is far from over.
Back in play after ping-ponging back and forth at the Capitol. Some now say Keno can be the revenue raiser Connecticut needs in the middle of a budget crisis.
Plus, going too far, nasty budget cuts affecting Connecticut veterans and how our nation's heroes are laid to rest. What's on the chopping block and how vets are responding. Next at 5.